Jamb candidates, leave the non-luminous objects and focus on this lesson. Okay, ensure you grab your pen and your notebook to jot down whatever you understand in this lecture. Jot in shorthand. All right. So today we are looking at nervous system and coordination. Nervous system and coordination. Why you can see coordination here is because nervous system coordinates every other system in the body. Every other system in the body, nervous system coordinates them. Nervous system controls them. So nervous system is the control center of the body system. All other system in the body depends on the nervous system to act. They depend what? On the nervous system to function. Is it your cardiovascular system, circulatory system, digestive system, reproductive system, lymphatic system? All the systems, urinary system, every system in the body depend on the nervous system to function. That's why you have nervous system and coordination here. So, what are the functions of the nervous system? The nervous system induces. Induce means like to bring about. It induces, it controls, and it also coordinates electric impulse through neurons. So it induce, control, and coordinate. Coordinate just be like, tidy. Coordinate, to control, to regulate, to ensure that everything is going as it's supposed to be. That's coordination. Ensuring that everything is going in harmony. Coordination. All right. Now, since we have understood the function of the nervous system, let's now look at the divisions of the nervous system. Okay. The division of the nervous system includes the central and the peripheral. The central and the peripheral. What is the functional unit of the nervous system? The functional unit of the nervous system is called neuron. So neuron are nerve cells, and they are what? They are the functional unit of the nervous system. Neurons are microscopic, but nerves are not microscopic. You can see nerve with your kuru eye. Nerve is just like a blood vessel, like a vein, like an artery. Okay, you can see it. But neurons are microscopic. You can't see them. They are just like the glomerulus, okay, in the kidney, microscopic. So you can't see them. They are nerve cells. We are going to look at neuron proper, okay? But just understand that the nervous system is made up of neurons, and the neurons is responsible for the structural and the functional aspects of the nervous system. The neurons enable the nervous system to function, and the neurons is what make up the structure, the appearance of every structure in the nervous system. Now, let's look at the central nervous system before we look at the peripheral division of the nervous system. The central nervous system just consists of the brain and the spinal cord. Anytime you hear that central, just know it's the brain and the spinal cord. The brain and the spinal cord. Do you remember the cavity I taught you relating to the brain and the spinal cord? The posterior cavity in the human body. Posterior cavities. We have two posterior cavities. The cranial cavity, which contains the brain. I taught you what posterior is. That posterior means back. Back. It's just simple word. It means back. Located at the back, behind. So the posterior cavities, all the cavities located behind, is what? Is known as the what? Two cavities. We have two cavities there. One is the cranial cavity containing the brain, and the what? The spinal cavity containing the what? The spinal cord. So remember that front or anterior can also be called ventral. Front can also be called ventral. Okay? While posterior, which is back, can also be referred to as what? Dorsal or dorsal. Anyhow you take it, so far you know what I talk about. Alright. So for the central nervous system, CNS. Okay, it consists of the brain and the what? The spinal cord. That's the component. What is the structure? What is the structure? The brain contains what? Different parts of the brain, such as the cerebrum. That's the major center which is the happen. The major center which is the happen. Things like thinking, thinking, deep thoughts, learning, complex movement. Okay, is the what? The cerebrum that coordinates that, that induces that. All right, that regulates that. All right. Then you also have the cerebellum. The cerebellum is like you get the way it did. How am I going to explain it? You get the way it just be like sponge where they gather, wrap together. That's how the cerebellum. That's how the cerebellum looks. Okay, or that's what it looks like. And what is the function of this cerebellum? We are going to treat all of this proper. Okay, so let's just jump all of this. Okay, because we are going to have time for it. Okay, we have the brain consists of the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the medulla oblongata. Okay, then you also have some other parts in the brain that I didn't mention here. Just that I was not mentioned in the syllabus. Okay, just like, but you still have to know it amount to God. You have the thalamus, you have the hypothalamus. Okay, that controls the pituitary. All right, you also have the pineal gland. All right, which other part of the brain are we not discussing here? I think that will be all. All right, those are the part of. Okay, we also have the pons. Okay, we have the pons. That's the one that is close to the what? The medulla oblongata. Okay, so if you are descending, you are going to see the pons first before you see the medulla oblongata. Some textbook we call it pons varoli. Okay, some book we say pons varoli. Okay, but just use pons to remember. All right. Why the spinal cord, the other part of the central nervous system, consists of what? The gray matter and the white matter. This gray matter and white matter, you can also see it in the brain. Gray matter and white matter are also found in the brain. All right, they are also found in the brain, not only spinal cord. So the difference is just that in the brain, in most part of the brain, you have an outer gray matter, then you have an inner white matter. All right, so the gray matter is usually located in the outer layer of the brain, while internally, that place you have internal capsule, you have the basal ganglia. Okay, that's where you have the white matter. All right, so what are the functions of the central nervous system, the CNS? The function is to integrate information. What's the meaning of integration? To bring information together, assemble information. Collect from here, collect from this side, collect from, assemble information. Another function is to what? To control voluntary/involuntary actions. The central nervous system helps to what? Control voluntary and involuntary actions. It also controls what? Reflexes. You know the reflex arc. Reflexes does not have any link to the brain. Okay, a reflex not the rich brain. Reflex now for spinal cord. Now everything they occur from spinal cord to the effector. All right. So it also coordinates what? Memory, learning, thinking. Everything now for central nervous system. Now, this is the diagram showing the nervous system and the two branches of the nervous system. All right. We are going to look at the peripheral nervous system shortly after this. But let's look at this diagram first. All right. This is the what? The central nervous system. All right. Then here is the what? The peripheral nervous what? System. All right. So you can see the central nervous system consists of what? The brain. You can see the location, the spinal cord. Okay. You can see the location of the spinal cord located inside the what? The spinal canal or inside the spinal cavity, protected by the what? The vertebrae. And you know, as an adult has how many vertebrae? How many? 33 vertebrae, right? All right. So an adult has 33 vertebrae, but there is usually a change that occurs. Okay, the coccygeal bone, okay, that was once 4, fuses at adulthood. Okay, fuses in adulthood, and it turns to what? 1 bone. So instead of 4, it turns to 1 bone. So what will that give us? What will that give us? What will that give us? So it's not going to be 33 minus 3. Okay, that's what's going to give the complete vertebrae. Okay, but for this elementary level, stick with the 33 vertebrae. All right. So the peripheral nervous system, on the other hand, the peripheral nervous system is divided into the somatic and the autonomic. We are going to look at that right away. The somatic and the autonomic. All right. Looking at the right hand side of this diagram we have on the screen, you have 2 types of nervous system. Okay, or you have 2 types of nerve. Okay, you have the afferent, okay, and you have the efferent. 2 branches of the nervous system. You have the afferent part of the nervous system and you have the efferent part of the nervous system. Anytime you just see this afferent, just know that it means that something is coming. Okay, this afferent A means coming. Afferent, coming. This efferent means going. That's it. Afferent, coming. Efferent, going. That's how it is. Whether it's in nervous system or whether it's in urinary system or any system you find afferent and efferent, just know that afferent is coming. Something is coming. It can be blood. It can be what? Electric impulse or nervous impulse, like we are discussing here. But you know that something is coming. Then you will now relate it to what the context is. Okay. Then efferent or efferent means that something is going, is leaving the center. All right. So in afferent, you are going to find nerves like sensory. Okay, sensory. When you hear anything sensory, you have sensory, you have motor. When you hear sensory, just know that sensory means coming. Okay, sensory means coming. So because sensory means coming, where are you going to see that coming? Where is that coming going to be integrated into? It's going to be integrated into coming. That's afferent. Okay, afferent, because afferent is something is coming. So that information that is coming is going to be carried by sensory nerves. Okay, those afferent info is going to be carried by sensory nerves because sensory means coming. Okay, it's a kind of nerve that brings, okay, or neurons. It's a kind of neuron, sensory nerve. It's a kind of nerve that brings information to the brain or to whatever parts. It could be the spinal cord, depending. But you know that anything sensory means bringing back. Okay, bringing back. Okay, then you can see what we have here: sensory info under what? Afferent. So it usually happens in a way that information, okay, nerve impulse, okay, electric impulse is sent from outside the body back towards the central nervous system. It could be the spinal cord, it could be the brain. It's coming from somewhere. It is coming from the periphery. It's coming to the central nervous system. Sensory, afferent. All right. Example includes like visual, that's sight. Okay, so you see light enters through your pupil, it travels down to your brain. Okay, sensory nerve, that's what takes it to your what? To your brain. It's sensory nerve, it's sensory neuron. Okay, and afferent sensory neuron, that's what takes it to what? To your what? Brain. All right. What brings something to the center? All right. So you can see auditory. Auditory means hear, audio, listen. Okay, if you talk now, enter your ear. Yeah. Your cochlear vestibulocochlear nerve sends it to your brain, okay, to be what? To be interpreted. Sensory nerve, now go carry and go. Chemoreceptors, where do you have chemoreceptors? Let's talk about the most common one for taste. Gustation, taste. Okay, when you put something for your mouth, sensory nerve, afferent sensory nerve takes it to where? To your brain, for your brain to what? Interpret. And you also have what? Somatosensory, which is for what? Touch. Okay, somatosensory is usually found around this portion of the brain. Okay, you have somatosensory here. Okay, somatosensory. you have it behind. You have it close to this place. Because all here come front na motor. All here na motor neuron. Now you get for here. Then from here, go back. You have sensory neuron. Alright. So we are done with afferent. Let's now look at efferent or efferent. I told you that efferent means that something is going away. And that's where you see motor nerve. And motor nerve is a kind of nerve or motor neuron. It's a kind of neuron that carries information, carries nervous impulse away from the central nervous system. They take it away from the center. They take it away. Afferent, come. Efferent, go. Come out, remove. Sensory, bring, come. Motor, carry, go back. You see as easy as that, ABCD. So this motor nerve, usually what? It takes info or impulses to the periphery. That's from the central to the peripheral nervous system, away from the central nervous system. Alright? So this usually happens when the information has been brought by the sensory nerve, okay, and after it's been interpreted in the brain, you understand? So it's sent back to the effector. Effector is an organ or a part that responds to an impulse. Sent back to the effector for response. Okay, so it travels through the what? The motor neurons or the motor nerve. All right. So it is through the afferent neuron that the contraction of muscle is coordinated. Okay, and also movements through, the muscles are located in the periphery of the nervous system. All right, and also movements through somatic nervous system. Movement through the what? Somatic nervous system, the nervous system of the body. Now let's look at the basic diagram of the nervous system. This you are seeing here is the basic diagram of the nervous system. Nervous system no pass waiting day here. If you know this diagram, you don't know everything for inside nervous system. Or if you know this diagram, you don't know at least 60% of the nervous system. This is the nervous system. All right, here it divides into two: the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system consists of what? Just the brain and the spinal cord. Shikina, you don't finish. Then we go to the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system further divides into what? The somatic nervous system, which is the nervous system of the body. So this nervous system of the body is the nervous system that controls something like movement, contraction of muscle. It's just the nervous system of the body. Okay. Then you have the autonomic nervous system branching from the peripheral nervous system. That's the second branch of the peripheral nervous system. You have the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system, you know the meaning of autonomic now? It means that when you say autonomic means that it's not dependent on anything. It is independent. Autonomic. All right. So this autonomic nervous system is further divided into three. The first branch is the sympathetic, which controls the flight and the fight actions. All right. It controls when you are active, when you the ginger. Now the sympathetic nervous system they control. When you are under stress, now the sympathetic nervous system they control. When you need energy to function, when you have to be active, sympathetic nervous system. Okay. But when you are inactive, it is the parasympathetic nervous system that controls inactivity. Like when you are resting. For example, as I'm taking this lecture now, my sympathetic nervous system is in action. It's in action. So when I'm resting, maybe I just lie down, just they operate my phone. Just they watch TikTok videos. I know they shout to, I know they celebrate, or I just sit down, just they watch videos, or just sit down, they edit videos, or they do anything while they do, or they do small, or I solve. Okay? I solve maths or something like that. It is the parasympathetic nervous system that controls that. Just know that sympathetic nervous system controls activity. When you are active, you are just active. Fight and flight. Now make they call and fight and flight. Fight means say that the nervous system will they control, will they give you that mind to fight, to one fight. Okay, that's why when your sympathetic nervous system is active, if matter suck now like this. Say maybe people just they fight everywhere, they carry gun, they shoot everywhere. Fence where be say you no go fit jump for your life. Where be say you no believe say you fit jump, you go fly that fence. You go fly that fence. It's because the flight, that's the flight part of it. The flight, the part of the nervous system that helps you run or that helps you fight back. Okay, when matter suck, when it happen. Giant when you think say you no go fit follow fight, you go see yourself say you dey follow that person in the fight. It is your sympathetic nervous system, particularly the fight part of it, that is controlling that aspect. That's what is taking you. Now they carry you along. Now they give you mind. Now they pump that adrenaline. All right. So that's that for that. So we already explained everything, and we also have the what? The enteric, okay, nervous system. And this enteric nervous system is the part that controls the what? The digestive tract. Okay, it controls what? The digestive tract. Okay, this enteric nervous system is more connected to this parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, it's more connected to this parasympathetic nervous system, but it is a branch of the autonomic nervous system on its own. This is the diagram of a neuron. And how did I define neuron? I said neuron is the what? Is the functional unit. I said neuron is the what? Is the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. It makes up the functional parts, the functionality of the nervous system. That is the neuron that enables the nervous system to function, to transmit impulse, to induce impulse, electric impulse, not just anyhow impulses. All right, so electric impulses, it is the neuron that induces it. It is the neuron that makes up the structure of the nervous system. If you are seeing a nerve now, a nerve contains billions of neurons. Your brain contains billions of neurons, over 11 billion neurons. Okay, your brain. That's it, the neuron. All right, and the neuron is made up of majorly two parts: the cell body and the axon. The cell body and the axon. All right, so some textbook will tell you it's made up of three parts: the cell body, the axon, and the terminal. So the cell body is from here, this round place like this, with something like I in the center. This is the cell body. Okay, you can see it is labeled. Okay, cell body. This round place like this. That's the cell body. Okay, the cell body. And this cell body consists of the nucleus. Okay, which is this thing you have in the center here. At the center here is the nucleus. Okay, this center here is called the nucleus. Why this place here is called the dendrites? All right, this thing like hair, this thing like flagella is called the dendrite. All right, so this is the cell body, the nucleus. Okay, this thing will be like eye inside, and the what? The dendrite. All right, so the nervous system also contains the Schwann cell. Okay, and this Schwann cell is responsible for something called the myelin sheath. Okay, this place, so all these parts now myelin sheath, now they be this part, so we cover the nerve. So what does the myelin sheath help to do? The myelin sheath helps to protect the nerve. It covers the nerve. It's just like the way your muscle really protects your bone, okay, from harsh traumas, harsh disturbances that can lead to easy fracture. All right, so that's the same way this Schwann cell, that's the same way this myelin sheath protects the nerve. Okay, and this myelin sheath also prevents impulse from escaping from the nerve. Okay, it prevents impulses from escaping from the nerve and hitting nearby tissues. Okay, if that happens, impulse begin to escape from nerve and hitting nearby tissues, there's a problem. Okay, a problem called one of the most common problem related to this is myasthenia gravis. Okay, whereby the myelin sheath has been depreciated. Okay, myelin sheath done bad, it has been depleted, no sheath again, no sheath protecting the nerve. So impulses escape. So one of the ailments that occurs as a result of degenerated myelin sheath is sclerosis, multiple sclerosis to be specific. Okay, when the myelin sheath becomes depleted. Okay, so it's an autoimmune, it's an autoimmune ailment. Okay, whereby the immune system attacks the myelin sheath in the nerve. Okay, and that leads to what? Impulse now, hits neighboring tissues. Okay, it's difficult to use muscles. Okay, in such ailments. All right, so you can see the axon, this thing that travels down like this straight thing, like a stick like this. It's called the axon. That's where what impulse travels. Okay, the axon. All right, while in between, like this, all this space where they in between, this place that you have no myelin sheath, it's called the nodes of Ringia. But forget about that one. Okay, forget about that one. Okay, this is the structure of the brain. The structure of the what? Of the brain. And remember, the brain is the father of the central nervous system. All right, so the brain is divided into three parts. You have the forebrain, you have the what? You have the midbrain, and you have the what? The hindbrain. This hindbrain can also be called brainstem. Okay, you can call it hindbrain or brainstem. Okay, and I will tell you everything. This one is just the division of the brain. Okay, in each of these divisions, forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain or brainstem, you have structures embedded in them. Okay, like the forebrain, for example. Now you have, what do you have in the forebrain? Forebrain consists of the cerebrum. Okay, which further divides into the two cerebral hemispheres, the left and the right cerebral hemispheres. All right, so that's what you have in the what? In the forebrain. Okay, so you have that in the forebrain, the cerebrum or the cerebral hemispheres. Then you also have the hypothalamus and the thalamus. It's part of the forebrain. Okay, you have the what? Cerebrum, hypothalamus, and the thalamus. Remember, look at the pituitary. The pituitary gland is located just adjacent to the hypothalamus. Okay, remember, it is the hypothalamus that controls the pituitary gland. It is the hypothalamus that controls endocrine processes. All right, so what is the component of forebrain? Cerebrum, hypothalamus, and the thalamus. All right, so then the midbrain. In the midbrain, that's where you have, midbrain is just a connection. Okay, a connection between the forebrain and the hindbrain, or it's a connection between the forebrain and the brainstem. It's located here. Look at it. This is the midbrain, and in this midbrain is where you have a structure called pineal gland. Okay, it usually degenerates as one age. Okay, as you age, it degenerates, and the pineal gland secretes a hormone called melatonin that controls sleep cycle. Majorly, the function of the midbrain is to control sleep cycle. Okay, your sleep cycle. Okay, I don't want to use more advanced term here. Okay, just know that it controls the sleep cycle. That's what it controls. Okay, and the pineal gland secretes melatonin that also helps to what? To control the sleep cycle. All right. Then this takes us down to the what? The brainstem or the hindbrain. The first part of the brainstem is the pons. The second part, look at the pons here. The pons. And what does the pons do? The pons controls what? Respiration. Okay, respiration is part of the respiratory control. Majorly, respiration. That's the function of the pons meroli. Okay, while posterior or at the back, the dorsal part of the brainstem, you have the cerebellum. And cerebellum controls what? Voluntary actions, voluntary movements, contraction of skeletal muscle, not smooth muscles, so contraction of skeletal muscles, posture, movement. So finally, beneath the pons, we have the medulla oblongata. And the medulla oblongata controls what? It controls involuntary actions, such as heartbeat, the movement of smooth muscles, contraction and relaxation of smooth muscles, such as muscles found in the intestine, muscles found in the blood vessels, all those things, actions that you can't control, heartbeat, all those actions that you can't control, contraction and relaxation of smooth muscle. It is this what? It is the medulla oblongata that controls that. Okay, that's what regulates it. All right. So, for clinical significance, for those that are studying medicine, Jamb loves asking all this kind of question. So, you now know the function of each part of the brain, though we are going to discuss it in depth very soon. You know the function of each and every part of the brain now. Okay. So, when Jamb asks you when a person had an accident and so the person sustained some trauma to the what? To the cerebellum, and the cerebellum is damaged. Okay, or some part of the cerebellum is damaged. Okay, so Jamb now asks you, what effect is it going to have in the person's life? So you should know, you already know the function of the cerebellum. The cerebellum controls what? Voluntary action, the contraction and relaxation of voluntary muscles, posture, movement. Okay, so you should not know that that person will not have issues moving. Okay, this person will be unable to move, or the person is going to have an inefficient movement. Okay, the person is going to be jerking, limping, what have you. So that's what you are going to see. So since you now know the function of each and every part of the brain, you should know what you should expect when there is an issue in any part of this brain. Okay, so before we exit this brain, the structure of the brain, in the forebrain where you have the cerebrum, the cerebral hemisphere, it is divided into two, the left and the right cerebral hemisphere. Okay, I want you to note something. Jamb, they ask question for here. Where? The right cerebral hemisphere controls the left part of the body. The left part of the body. It is the right cerebral hemisphere that controls the left part of the body. While the what? The left cerebral hemisphere controls the right part of the body. So when a person, maybe due to trauma, accident, whatever, sustain injury to the left cerebral hemisphere, what part of the body will be affected? The right. The person will find it difficult to move the right part of the body, to utilize the right part of the body. When there is a problem on the what, or maybe there's a tumor in the right cerebral hemisphere, what do you expect? You expect what? You expect difficulty in moving or difficulty in functionality on the what? The left part of the body. There is a structure responsible for this, but because of your level, don't need to know that structure now. When you get to the level to know the structure, why it is like this, why it's opposite, you are going to learn it. It's not difficult, it's easy. But for this level, stick with what I just taught you. Now, let's look at the function of each part of the what? The central nervous system. All right. The brain is what? Is the control center. All right. It controls thinking, emotions, what have you, processing of information. Then under the brain, you have various parts of the brain, such as the cerebrum. Okay. It controls conscious thought, intelligence, deep thinking, learning, what have you, memory, emotions. Now the what? The cerebrum, and the control. That's where you have the left and the right cerebral hemisphere. All right. The brain also tells the other part of the brain, like cerebellum, how to move. How should the movement be? Maybe something happens now, you don't already know, say now like this, you go they move, they maneuver. So like maybe when you are writing, you already know that to write A, small letter A is like this. It is your cerebrum that is going to induce it. See the information. Then it sends the information to where? To your what? To your cerebellum to coordinate the writing as you are writing, to coordinate it as you write. So writing is a complex neural process that is controlled by both the cerebrum and the cerebellum. Alright. Looking at the next we have here, the cerebellum controls what? Balance, coordination, movement, posture, anything voluntary. Okay, it is the what? The cerebellum that controls it, and you know the location. It's located here. All right, that's where you have the what? The cerebellum. All right. So the cerebellum contains what we call proprioceptors. Okay, proprioceptors. That's what helps in controlling balance and coordination. All right, that's what helps in controlling what? Balance and coordination. And proprioceptors are found in. You can see proprioceptors in the muscles. You also see proprioceptors in the what? In the ear. Okay, because these are structures that help with balance. All right. The next here is the part of the brain called medulla oblongata. It controls the vital functions. What are the vital functions? When you hear vital functions, just know that those functions. So just know that it's those functions that keeps the body alive. Those functions that keeps you alive, even when you are sleeping. Those processes that keeps you alive, such as breathing, heartbeat, contraction and relaxation of smooth muscles to aid in blood circulation around your body. That's it. That's what the medulla oblongata controls. I already taught you before. I already said it before when we were looking at the diagram. All right. Then the final here is the spinal cord, and the spinal cord controls what? Reflex is the reflex center. All right. The spinal cord controls what? Reflex. Okay. Reflex action. Reflex action. Not the reach brain. No. Now for spinal cord in the end, the reach brain. Okay. Reflex action is a complex action that never gets to the brain. It goes to the circuit. So the circuit rotates around the spinal cord. The reach brain. Now the spinal cord then they control reflex action. All right. Remember, reflex action is an involuntary action. All right. So the spinal cord is the reflex center. It also links the body to the brain. That's the function. It also does what? It links the peripheral nervous system to the brain. Remember, all the peripheral nervous system branches to the spinal cord. Okay, we are going to talk about the nerves. Okay, we have cranial nerve and we have spinal nerve, and we also have peripheral nerve. So we have basically three groups of nerve. We have cranial, we have spinal, and we have peripheral nerves. All right, we are going to look at that very soon. All right. Remember, we also have another part of the brain, structure of the brain, called the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus controls what? Endocrine function. Okay, it controls the pituitary, the master gland. Okay, the hypothalamus also controls what? It regulates temperature. Okay, so that's part of the homeostasis. Regulating temperature is also part of homeostasis. So just know that that's the function of the hypothalamus. That's the function. Okay, hope we are not missing anything. Okay, I don't think so.